Greetings and welcome to this week's True Sky Sidereal Astrological Weather Report, where we look at the current astronomical positions of the luminaries and celestial beings as they travel along the line of the ecliptic through the various star groupings or constellations known as the zodiac, so that we can accurately harness the alchemical energetic combinations of these luminaries and the constellations, which create basically energetic weather for us to play with here on Earth. Tropical or Western astrology, the most popularized version of astrology, is not that. You might think it is, but it's not. It is a symbolic system based on a calendar and clock designed to ensnare humanity in the lower cycles of our reality. It only measures the seasons around and around just the same every year, like Groundhog Day. So if you're here to actually harness the current alchemical energetic combinations of these luminaries as they are in the visible sky, stay tuned. Another important distinction I should mention as far as differences between tropical and this lens of astrology is that we take into consideration the 13th zodiac sign, which we just saw on the screen there above Scorpio over the galactic center, and we look at the different sizes of the constellations because some of them are quite large and some of them are smaller, so the whole or even house system doesn't quite give you an accurate picture. We've got a pretty busy week as far as aspects going on in the sky, so let's get into it, starting with a rundown of the line of the ecliptic, which is this dotted line you're seeing on the screen here. So let's look at the different zodiac signs, constellations, and which planets are there. So starting off with the sun and Mercury. Mercury is usually pretty close to the sun, so we can see it just a little bit behind here. Mercury is still in Sagittarius, and the sun is just transitioning out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn this week. So we're having kind of that cusp energy of the free-spirited artist that is Sagittarius and the more structured and responsible, patient Capricorn. Pluto, our controversial friend, is also at the same point as the sun currently in Capricorn. That's right, Pluto is in Capricorn, folks, okay? So moving down the line of the ecliptic, we have Aquarius on the horizon here, and in Aquarius, we currently have Saturn, and Venus, which will be changing signs this week. We've got a few sign changes this week, so lots of shifts in the energy. Moving down the line of the ecliptic into Pisces, which is another quite large constellation. You can see here kind of the fish on the screen. It's kind of hard to see the constellations sometimes when they're below the horizon as far as the visuals here are concerned. But in Pisces, we just have Neptune, which is right at home. So we have a long period of time where Neptune is going to be transiting Pisces, which makes the veil thin and us all a little more spiritual than we normally are, or access to our higher selves is increased. Not much going on in Aries. Taurus, no change here. We've had Uranus and Jupiter hanging out in Taurus for quite some time. They're both slower moving planets, and Taurus is huge, so that is not going to be changing anytime soon. Gemini, we have a bit of action this week as Mars is retrograding into Gemini. So it was in Cancer, and retrograde means it's moving backwards. So it's moving backwards on the line of the ecliptic into Gemini this week, which I'll get into when I do the rundown. But other than that, in Cancer, there's not a whole lot going on. We just had that full moon in the cusp of Cancer and Gemini as well. So this week really is actually about implementing the insights that we gained from that full moon, which I've done a lot of videos on. So if you want to look at that in more detail, you can scroll back. Not much going on in Leo. The moon right now, as I'm recording this on the Monday, is in Virgo, and you can see Virgo is a huge constellation as well, so it will continue to be there for a number of days as it makes its way along the line of the ecliptic. The moon moves 13 degrees in the sky every day. What a curious number, huh? And then just finishing up our rundown of the line of the ecliptic to see where everything is. We don't have anything going on in Libra or Scorpio or Ophiuchus. Here's our serpent bearer of hidden wisdom here right above Scorpio. Not much going on in the sky at in this point in time this week. So just returning our way back here to Mercury in Sagittarius and the sun just on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. Let's get into the aspects and transits for this week. All right, starting out with the moon, since it is the luminary that I would say affects us the most significantly, it's the closest to us, and it acts like a magnet to pull emotions from us in order to bring awareness to them and work through that karmic load to remove the density from ourselves. So the moon, as I said, moves 13 degree points in the sky every day, and so it will be in Virgo until late on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, since Libra is quite small, it'll just be in Libra on Thursday. Friday, it will be in Scorpio. Saturday, Ophiuchus. And Sunday, Sagittarius. So we've got a lot of different themes as far as the moon, and it's only really spending one day in each of these signs because these signs are a little bit smaller, and this is why this lens of astrology is the most precise that you can subscribe to, because it's actually looking at where the luminaries are and how long they are spending in each of these signs. Not each sign has 30 degrees. So the moon will be supporting the other transits happening this week. Starting on Tuesday, we have a number of aspects. Specifically, the sun will be exact with Pluto. It's pretty close though right now, so we're already feeling these effects. So the sun conjunct anything really just illuminates or magnifies that energy. And as I mentioned, Pluto is in Capricorn. I did do a whole video on Pluto and Capricorn. If you scroll back on my feed, if you're watching this on TikTok, if it's on YouTube, you're going to have to go on TikTok to see that video. I don't think I put it on YouTube. But essentially, Pluto in Capricorn is the destruction of externally motivated, rigid structures that are not facilitating life on Earth. Essentially, all these old, outdated, externally locust, patriarchal systems of rigidity and like toiling and slaving away are being dismantled, and we're seeing that happening, right? So on Tuesday, tomorrow, we've got the sun illuminating that energy. Pluto is also like the ego killer, and it is really deep, right? So we might be feeling like we want to look at our lives through a deeper lens. You might be really triggered by something that comes up as an activation in order to bring your awareness to it. But ultimately, it's just asking us to really reclaim our power, like look underneath the rug and see what's there, right? Like clear out that skeleton closet, because anything that you're trying to hide away is only fragmenting your soul. And so these things come up in order for us to be aware of these fragmentations, so we can call those aspects of ourselves home as well. On Tuesday, we'll also have Mercury squaring Chiron, Chiron is in Pisces. This is an astronomical app, so it doesn't show things like Chiron and Lilith, but Chiron is currently in Pisces. So a square to that with Mercury in Sagittarius is a potential for healing communication. So although we may be triggered by the sun and Pluto on Tuesday, we will have that kind of healing communication energy to hopefully support that transition. Next up, on Thursday, we have three kind of more minor aspects that together create an effect. So we first have Mars sextiling Uranus. Mars, again, is still retrograde, and it's retrograde now going into Gemini. So Mars in retrograde is really looking at like who we are and what we need, essentially. Like, what do we want? Who we are, what do we want? And like, how can we take care of ourselves? How can we make sure that our needs are met? And so that moving into Gemini, it's been in Cancer, which is really emotional, right? The mother wound, cardinal water. It's moving into Gemini, which is a more detached and intellectual viewpoint. So we might be finding ourselves having intellectual or mental insights about who we are and how we can take better care of ourselves. And Uranus is in Taurus, right? Uranus is all about shaking things up and doing things differently, and it being in Taurus means that we have the ability to shake up our physical world, essentially. Also on Thursday, we have Mercury trining Uranus, so we have another kind of supportive energy when it comes to rethinking. Like, how can we think differently? How can we think outside of the box? And how can that support us being who we are and having our needs met? Finally, on Thursday, we also have Mars opposing Mercury. So Mars, again, still that retrograde energy of like thinking about who we are and what we need and how we can take better care of ourselves, opposing, so pushing energy on Mercury, which is in Sagittarius, which is then supporting that trine with Uranus, right? So basically Mercury, Mars, and Uranus are all playing together to bring this energy of being open to change, asserting our needs in a way, like being assertive, but in a way that is also soft and helpful, and increasing our spontaneity and potentially taking action to do things differently so that we can create a more suitable reality for ourselves. On Saturday, the 25th, we have Venus squaring Mars. So this is going to be a fairly harmonious square. Venus and Mars are opposites, like they represent the feminine and the masculine. And it's kind of curious because, so this is the 25th, which is, I'm going to make a whole video on this, but like there's been a lot of hype in the mainstream, social media astrology about like the 25th being a really magical day because the planets are aligning, but like that all week and for the next couple of months we'll be able to see these planets in the sky. It's actually not an astronomical or astrologically significant day at all. So Venus squaring Mars again is going to create like a little more harmony and perhaps passion and ease as far as relationships are concerned, as we have Venus changing signs into Pisces. So we're going to have this valuing, like an increased value in the receptivity. Pisces is receptive. Pisces is very deep spirituality. It's what's hidden underneath. So Venus in Pisces is really valuing making space for yourself, taking space, going deep, like seeing what's underneath kind of idea. And with that connection to Mars, again, continuing to be retrograde, moving into Gemini, really thinking about who we are and what we need to be. These two things playing together is thinking about how we can value our own space. Like, how can we value our receptive powers? How can we be more in the feminine? And this is gender neutral, whether you have masculine or feminine genitals. It doesn't matter, right? Like we all have masculine and feminine poles within us, right? So like, how can we value the feminine? How can we value that magnetic receptive power is going to be the theme on Saturday with that Venus squaring Mars. And then finally on Sunday, we have a couple of minor aspects with Venus sextiling Uranus and Mercury sextiling Neptune. Again, these are fairly minor aspects, but really will just curate energies, making it easier to connect to our higher selves and maybe new ways of being. So overall, a lot of action going on, a lot of sign changes, a lot of transits and different connections between the planets this week. But I would say we'd really be looking at implementing the insights. Like, what were the insights that you came to through the full moon? We're at that third quarter moon, so we're moving into the finale of this lunar cycle. Like, we have a new moon on next Wednesday. So thinking about like taking action on what it is that came to you through the full moon. We also do have a number of sign changes. So the sun will be moving into Capricorn, Mars is moving into Gemini, and Venus is moving into Pisces. So really bringing fresh energy to Capricorn, Gemini, and Pisces. Capricorn, again, is like the dad energy, responsibilities, rules, regulations, patience, the long haul kind of energy. Gemini is the ability to think flexibly, like looking at things from every angle, not being rigid in your thinking about things differently, seeing things in a different type of light. And Pisces is deep spirituality. It's what's hidden underneath. It is like dark night of the soul kind of energy. It's valuing the slowing down and the depths of our own selves and our spirituality, essentially. So I would say anything to do with those kind of energies are going to be highlighted this week. And yeah, I would say that's it. Thanks for being here. If you like this sort of content, you know what to do. Give me all the engagement on this video, no matter what platform you are on. I am available to do personalized True Sky Sidereal readings if that's something that is of interest to you. Otherwise, just stay tuned for what I am continuing to put out, and I'll see you in the next one.